Los Angeles rarely sleeps, yet at 3:17 a.m. its breath is shallow, an uneasy lull between late-night talk show reruns and the first hiss of bakery ovens. Lightning has just prowled off toward the desert, leaving every puddle on Ventura Boulevard trembling with reflected neon. A lone security lamp sputters above the back entrance of Record One Studios, flick holding steady, as though unsure whether this moment deserves full illumination. Inside, through walls no thicker than a bass drum shell, the last echo of a 13-voice gospel harmony still quivers in the wiring, but the mixing desk finally rests. Then the latch clicks. Michael Jackson steps out, shoulders high, coat collar rising like velvet armor against the drizzle. Steam coils from the pavement, swirling around his ankles and turning each footfall into a private stage effect. No entourage beside him, only the distant buzz of a vending machine whose dying tubes spell COLA in bleeding red strokes. Across the lot, a shape detaches from the shadows, a Harley-Davidson, paint so matte it swallows the scant light, rolls forward with the patience of a stalking cat. Its rider's silhouette is all edges, broad shoulders, fists hanging past the grips, helmet dangling from one gloved hand instead of his head. The engine idles low, a guttural promise that gasoline and thunder still outrank melody and moonlight in certain corners of the city. Cameras twitch awake atop a battered van, lenses telescope, hungry for any spark that might ignite tomorrow's headlines. They capture the instant the biker kills the motor and swings off, boots clapping the soaked asphalt. A big hand, rough as sanded bark, closes on Michael's shoulder, too fast for bodyguards to react, too decisive for hesitation. Flashbulbs spit white fire. Plastic masks can't save you from the real world, superstar. The growl fractures the night, hanging there like smoke over a playground after fireworks. No one breathes. The guards tense, the photographers drool, even the rain seems to hold back one last drop. Somewhere overhead, the stuttering lamp finally gives up and plunges the lot into semi-darkness, as though the city itself has dimmed the house lights for an opening number no ticket ever advertised. The moment rain thinned to a silver mist, the studio doors hissed open and Michael stepped into the humid night. After 14 hours of perfect take purgatory, his posture should have sagged, yet he moved with the deliberate grace of someone who still heard music in the air. Record One's rear lot lay deserted except for a few corrugated shipping crates and a flickering vending machine, its neon sign spelling out cola and stuttering crimson. The sign's glow cut through the steam rising off the pavement, projecting an accidental spotlight that followed him as faithfully as any stage crew. An idling engine, deep and predatory, rolled from the darkness by the service gate. Out of the gloom cruised a matte black Harley-Davidson FLH, its headlamp killed, its pilot a slab-shouldered figure in sun-bleached denim and road-scarred leather. Even before the bike halted, Michael could smell the high-octane fumes mixing with wet asphalt and the faint, sweet ozone that always lingers after a coastal storm. The rider kicked down the stand, boots scraping gravel like flint against steel, and in 2 steps closed the distance. A calloused hand as wide as a brake drum clamped Michael's shoulder, pivoting him into the full glare of the vending machine. The sudden brightness made the famous eyes shimmer, but the rider, Rex, patch captain of the Iron Rattlers, was staring at the surgeon-smooth mask under the fedora brim. His voice carried the rasp of cigarettes crushed out on bad memories. "Plastic shields, superstar," he growled. "You hide behind them, same way you dodge the world." Security stationed by the loading dock reacted by reflex. Earpieces crackled, holsters unclipped. In the same beat 20 yards away a van door slid, and paparazzi lenses telescoped like metallic vipers, hunting currency in human form. Shutters began their percussion. Michael inhaled twice, centering on a pulse that was equal parts heartbeat and kick drum. He reached up, unhooked the surgical mask, and let the cool air sting his freshly shaved cheeks. "People think the mask hides me," he said, voice a deliberate whisper, intimate enough to force Rex to lean closer, disarming enough that the nearest guard paused mid-stride. "Sometimes it shelters the music." Rex snorted, but the grip loosened. Under the parking lot's sodium lamps the biker's face revealed fractures of fatigue, pale crescents beneath the eyes, a split in the lower lip not yet scabbed. Michael read them as easily as sheet music, telltale notes of a man who'd gone 3 nights without real sleep because nightmares waited behind his eyelids. "Give me 10 minutes," Michael continued, sliding his own hand over the giant knuckles, easing them away without obvious resistance. "Inside, where the rain can't dilute the sound. Let me show you what doesn't hide." The challenge baffled the bodyguards more than the biker. Rex withdrew, gave one curt nod. When he spoke again, the menace was laced with curiosity. 10. "And if it's lies? Then you ride out." Michael managed half a smile. "No cameras, no cops. Just melody." The corridor along Studio B smelled of warm circuitry and caffeine grounds, the air vibrating faintly with the A440 hum left looping on a console tuner. Bill Bottrell's handwritten track sheets littered the piano bench. "Jam, will you be there? Given to me." Dates and tape reel numbers underlined in urgent red. Bottrell himself had finally dozed on a couch upstairs, leaving the SSL board lit like a nighttime skyline. VU meters glowed steady amber. Every few seconds a relay clicked, as though the machinery exhaled. Michael cued the 2-inch tape and dimmed the ceiling cans until only the desk lamps burned. A single keystroke filled the control room with the raw, unmixed take of "Given to me." No choir, no string overdubs, just the sinewy guitar riff pumping through Westlake monitors, saturated enough to rattle unused mic stands. The riff was jagged, minor key, almost defiant against the pop sheen Columbia expected. Rex's shoulders twitched, a reflex he might have denied if asked. His weathered hands flexed, remembering something. Mid-second verse, the biker's eyes glassed, yet he did not blink. Michael noticed, the way a surgeon notices the first tremor in a heartbeat, and advanced the shuttle to a bridge that had been cut from the radio edit. The chords softened there, leaving space where grief could breathe. In the pause, Rex's breath hitched, and the truth spilled without warning. "My kid danced to a riff like that," he muttered, voice cracked. "Last thing before she—" The rest stalled in his throat, engine flooding on too much sorrow. Across the courtyard a magnesium flash erupted. One photographer had shimmied up a drainpipe for a better angle and nailed the tableau. Titanic biker looming over fragile pop icon, hand still near Michael's clavicle, frame frozen at a tension that looked exactly like violence. In the morning, National Mirror would run it front page above the fold, "Blood on the dance floor?" Rumor and headline cared little that the session room smelled of ozone and empathy rather than fear. Michael silenced the machine, allowing the last guitar string to decay into absolute stillness. The air hummed only with fluorescent ballast and distant rainwater gargling in gutters. "I wrote that bridge 2 nights after watching a father bury his child," he said quietly, eyes on the stop button as if it were confession. "He told me grief is just love with no place left to go. Songs give it somewhere." Rex's reply was a whisper hauled over gravel. "Play it again." Michael obliged, but this time stood beside the biker instead of behind the console. Together they faced the pulsing meters, 2 silhouettes unequal in shape yet suddenly aligned in tempo. Outside, security reconsidered everything they thought about threats. The photographer, jubilant with his scoop, failed to notice his flash had triggered the studio's rooftop sensor, which now fed footage, time-coded and pristine, to a bank of archival Betamaxes. Evidence of the truth began recording the moment the lie was born. When the final chorus crashed and faded, Rex turned, throat working. For a moment the former Marine searched for a warlike response and found none. Instead he extended the same calloused hand, offering a shake rather than a grip. Michael accepted, palm to weathered palm, sealing a truce that felt more durable than contracts drafted in Midtown law offices. The handshake had scarcely completed when a new tide of headlights flooded the lot, tabloid freelancers chasing the scent of scandal, vans skidding to a halt on rain-slicked tarmac. Rex released Michael and stepped toward the exit, engine rumble, confidence restored. "Looks like my 10 minutes are up. They won't hear the music out there," Michael cautioned. "Then we make them listen someplace they can't ignore." Rex's grin flickered, feral, exhilarated. "Tell your guards to stand down. I'll get us out." He strode into the neon storm, Harley already throbbing to life. Michael followed after one heartbeat, coat collar flaring. Hobbyist flicks up a visor decorated with tiny chrome suns and grins. Heard you were short a lighting crew, he says, voice gravel-laced with amusement. Landis blinks, half scandalized, half relieved. By 6:15 the bikers have fanned out like engineering ants. One rewires a defunct Mo Richardson Fresnel, bypassing a scorched tri-pin and purring. She'll sing again, boss. Another lays a snap dolly rail smooth, sparks fountaining across asphalt and making the fake storefronts glow hellfire crimson. The air grows rich with flux smoke, gaffer tape adhesive, and hot cinnamon buns someone ferry from craft service. Cameras whirl to life. An assistant director scribbles shot numbers newly plausible again. 11:08. Michael, costumed in jet black slacks and an open white shirt, steps onto Mark IV dolly rails for the Panther dance sequence. Codename Ritual. Silence on set. Only the hiss of remote focusing servos whispers. He stands motionless 10 beats, letting suspense ripen, then snaps into motion, heel pivot, toe brush, weightless lean. Leather soles squeal against epoxy paint, the tiny, SKRT, that fans will later mimic in living rooms across the globe. Mid-spin, his right hand sweeps down the trouser seam, fingertips graze fabric with a faint swip, before he explodes into the jet spin that even Landis hasn't fully witnessed. Crew instinctively whoops. Playback operator kills sound so footsteps stay the only percussion. Upstage left, a grip-looking fellow in faded blues studies the dance with predatory calm. His road case bears a Canon sticker, but inside, if anyone checked, rests a palm-sized CCD camera rigged to transmit over a van-mounted microwave dish idling beyond the facade. The man's press badge hides beneath 2 layers of tape. National Mirror pays bonuses for exclusivity. At 11:22 he flips a thumb switch and red LED winks on. 30 seconds later, in an editorial cubicle on Sunset Strip, a field producer sees a shaky frame of Michael mid-crouch and whispers, "We've got the Panther." Sony Legal's pager screams within 3 minutes. Executive VP Karen Wilson dials the backlit, voice like torn aluminum. "If one frame leaks, we litigate down to his belt buckle." Landis relays the threat. Stage 27 feels suddenly smaller, hunted. 13:02. Time for the prop storefront smash finale. Glass break timed with a 120 decibel snare hit. Rattlers finish bracing the sugar glass window. Torch checks his follow spot perched on a condor lift, cigarette dangling. Over comms, he hears Steadicam op mutter about a stray reflection, a glimmer bouncing from the pawnshop awning, lens from the grip-looking stranger, now tucked behind a newspaper rack, hardware still streaming. Light cue ready. Torch lies, then swings his 4K HMI 10 degrees off mark. A lance of white erupts, bathes the sneaking cameraman in instant noon. Disoriented, he trips on sandbags. The covert unit clatters onto set, skittering until it lands at Michael's feet. The snare cracks. Michael spins, arm already cocked to shatter glass, but instead he kneels, palm over camera like calming a small animal. Landis waves frantically, cut or roll. Michael chooses roll. He lifts the dented camera, studies its red tally lights still blinking panic. Then he faces the lens banked above him, 3 Panavision mags rolling, and says soft but audible, "You captured a surface. Now here a foundation." He hands the device back to the dazed saboteur, who looks too stunned to flee. Torch dims his spot. The set, witness to an act fiercer for its tenderness, exhales. National Mirror's microwave truck receives only static. Torch's light burst fried the transmitter. For the first time in memory, a tabloid kills its own feed, editors fearing lawsuits and looking, frankly, small. Michael signals to reset. Sugar glass shards are cleared. He asks the window remain half broken, edges glittering like a fractured mirror, so in the next take his reflection will share the pain with Torch's silhouette, a pop icon and a biker welded into one rebellious shadow. 1847. Sunset ignites the studio facade rose gold. Strikers beyond the gates, curious about rumor, witness rattlers push coil cases and C-stands back onto trucks, then pass out chilled sodas to Union brothers they've technically replaced. No fists, only nods, a mutual respect born of work done right. Inside, Landis reviews dailies. The Panther dance glows phosphor alive, each leather squeak audible. The unscripted light blast flares on the telecine monitor, a brief solar flare before equilibrium returns. He decides to keep it. A burst of white truth, he calls it. Sony's legal fax arrives stamped cease and desist withdrawn. Spreadsheet minds conceded after seeing bootleg boards light up LA street vendors within hours. Every jacket plastered with light doesn't lie above a silhouette of Michael handing back the stolen camera. The studio chooses to ride the wave rather than drown beneath it. That night Michael wanders the empty set, crunching over missed sugar glass flecks. In the cracked storefront he studies his ghost double beside Torch's broader outline, immortalized by a premature flash. Two worlds once judged incompatible now overlap neatly in a pain nobody meant to break. He touches the jagged edge, it glitters but does not cut. Beyond the facades, crickets begin their shift, stitching a songless soundtrack until morning call. Somewhere in the dark Torch's spotlight rests, lens still warm, waiting to blind the next lie that slinks too close to the truth. Rain hadn't yet reached Bavaria, but the sky above Munich's Olympiastadion already felt electrically bruised, a dense, pewter ceiling that pressed the early summer heat back toward the plastic seats like the lid of a boiling pot. Loden was chaos with an undertow of hurry-up dread, 48 trailers, 1,500 lighting cans, 200 tons of staging truss that had to be flown, leveled, certified, and set aglow before Marcel Avram's clipboard struck its hard stop line. Drop dead 1830. In red Sharpe. The German crews worked by chronograph, not instinct. Every half hour a whistle shrilled from stage left, marking another slice of margin Michael Jackson could not afford to surrender. 6 hours before soundcheck a runner discovered the pyrotech's workstation vacant, brass keys still in the shackle of a lockbox, flight case gaping like a startled mouth. Nobody had seen Dieter since dawn. A junior rigger radioed the catwalks for confirmation. Silence. In his absence protocol required a walkthrough, and that was how Lugo, Sparks, Alvarez and Dana, Kraut, Baumgartner, two iron rattlers on temporary welding contracts, lifted a deck hatch and found duplicate flashpots wired beneath the main thrust, 11 kilos total, double the scripted load, aimed up through the floor grills where Michael would land his opening knee slide during jam. Alvarez squatted, sniffed. Cordite and ammonium perchlorate, hotter than Tur-Spec, enough to turn the birch ply riser into confetti and shred the first row of amp returns. Dana swore in Schwabish, thumbed his calm the whistle for 1400 hours split the air, but its meaning was instantly obsolete. The stage was now a crime scene. Half an hour later, in the management trailer modeled by Bavarian Dust, a VHS tape lay queued inside a Panasonic deck. No label, only black ferrule and staticky hum. Avram stabbed play. A voice, digitally pitched lower but betraying American consonants, delivered the ultimatum over jittery footage of the freshly discovered charges: cancel tonight, or the world watches you murder your crowd. Return Rexford Coltrane to authority. The video cut to bars, then blue, then hiss. No contact coordinates, no demand for money, just the conditional threat and a timestamp to prove proximity. Outside, the Deutsche Telekom satellite truck idled, eager to uplink rehearsal B-roll to ZDF's afternoon magazine block. The saboteur plainly intended to piggyback their feed. Michael arrived for line array alignment ignorant of the tape. He was, however, annoyed that the house PA delay hadn't matched reflections at section 127, so he seized the headset and jogged catwalk stairs 2 at a time, vanished into the lattice of truss 45 meters above pitch. A handheld SM-58 dangled on slack cable near the center spine, part of Dieter's last yet-to-test comm loop. Michael clipped it hot, tapped. Check 1-1. A sound engineer below nearly dropped a coffee when the king of pop, unannounced, began to sing the second verse refrain of Heal the World. A cappella, voice thin in metal rafters yet uncannily pure. The ZDF cameraman, already rolling B-roll of empty stage vistas, panned instinctively upward. His Betacam captured not only Michael, haloed by skylight leaking through the roof ellipse, but also 2 bomb squad officers in navy flame suits easing through the stage right wings. Their helmets caught sun. Their toolkit cans reflected the stadium's ring of seats. In live TV language, that meant provenance. Any detonation after this footage went public would stand as deliberate homicide, not accident of showbiz spectacle. Somewhere, whichever blackmailer crouched behind a fax machine realized exposure was now a two-edged blade. Down on deck, Alvarez and Dana replaced the illegal pots with inert dummies, their detonator leads rerouted into a stand-alone firing box locked inside a clear plexi coffin, proof for whoever might later demand chain of custody. Pyro Chief No. 2, Ernst Klee, recertified the cue list with trembling pen, cutting all but the finale gerbs. Thunderheads bruised darker overhead. Humidity crept into cable trunks until copper smelled like blood fresh from the vein. At 16:45 a.m. Courier in Deutsche Post Yellow delivered another cassette. No tape this time, just blank shell and typed card. Countdown stopped. Next city ticks again. Avram exhaled through clenched teeth and phoned Bavarian State Police. They could trace nothing. Postmark illegible, fingerprints smudged. Gates opened 1840, 10 minutes past drop dead, because risk assessment ruled that a calm, orderly ingress beat panicked cancellation. 75,000 ponchos leapt from merchandise stalls to shoulders as the storm that had stalked the Alps all afternoon finally crossed the Isar Basin. Lightning ripped horizontal behind the Olympiadrome. Ozone rolled over the stage like a giant exhale. Ground fault detectors clicked amber, then green, then amber. The board ops rode them like ECG techs over a failing heart. Showtime 20:02. Gates of Kiev. Theme blasted through Mira rays, but the pyro console remained dark. Water in rain shields had tripped safeties. Klee cursed, slapped resets. Nothing. Each flashpot sat drowned, a paper tiger. Michael burst from the stage elevator into a wilderness of strobes sans fire, the absence weirdly majestic, as if nature had insisted on its own special effect. Rain sheeted, carrying away the threat in equal measure and silence. From front row pits to concrete nosebleeds, the crowd felt the tension snap, though they could not name its source, only that some catastrophe unseen had just been dodged. They screamed louder for not understanding why their lungs burned so sweetly. Mid-set, Michael paused before human nature, gaze sweeping the flooded pitch stitched with umbrellas. He spoke, not in shout but conversation amplified. Storms clean the air. Let's breathe that gift together. The phrase made no tabloid headline next day, yet among the soaked thousands a communal shiver of relief spread, a ripple older than language. We are still here. Backstage, Alvarez wiped rain off the inert dummy pots, thinking of the real charges locked in a steel drum 20 yards away, now evidence. Dana laughed, a raw bark, pointing at the sky that had ransomed them all. God is Dakyayan Rodi. He said, God is just another Rodi, and for once everyone believed it. The encore detonated nothing but applause. When house lights rose, sheets of water cascaded from scaffold eaves like velvet curtains closing. The media would later label the concert mystical blackout, spinning tales of environmental activism and spiritual humility. Only a handful of welders, tour managers, and a singer still drying rain from his curls understood that the real miracle was mechanical, a thunderstorm snuffing fuses a saboteur had planned to overexcite. Munich slept that night beneath ozone-cleansed skies, unaware its cheers were the echo of a bomb that never learned to speak. Satellite dishes perched on the roof of the broadcast truck like white moons, their lacquered skin beaded by a humid haze that never quite evaporated over Bucharest. It was an hour to sunset, October 1, 1992, and the concrete bowl of the National Arena already trembled with 40,000 footfalls. Every kick drum from the soundcheck bounced off bare lime-washed tiers and returned as an anxious echo. Inside the mobile control room, HBO engineers fine-tuned color bars for a hopscotch of teleport links. Bucharest to London, London to New York, New York to 58 affiliates, whose local midnight would light at once when Michael Jackson took the stage. The failsafe hinged on a thumbnail-size optical key slid into the patch panel of a Grass Valley router. If the primary link hiccuped, timecode would swing to an 8-antenna backup path in 0.23 seconds, imperceptible to viewers. Lose the key and the router reverted to loop mode, a cruel hall of mirrors in which each frame re-entered the matrix a quarter second behind the one before. 4 seconds of that, and the image smeared, audio slurred into Doppler ghosts, satellites dropped lock. At 1811 someone shouted for quiet. The key was missing. No spare. A translator at the far end of the truck swore he had seen it 5 minutes earlier dangling from a red lanyard. Now the lanyard itself was gone. Panic traveled the aisle like a fuse. Beads of sweat burst on necklines even before the aircon groaned to compensate. Word shot across the comm loop to stage left where Rattler lighting leads were programming the strobe chase for Smooth Criminal. Torch cursed softly. Rex, still reintegrating after his Munich release, felt his pulse step into double time. Security dragged badge logs. Last non-local tech to scan in was Victor M. Ortega, Skinny Vic, freelance fiber runner, subcontracted that morning. Rex's stomach tightened. He remembered Vic's terrified silhouette fleeing Neverland, the forgiveness that had seemed so radical, the second and third chances entrusted like heirlooms. Now this. Vic stood at camera riser 3, headset on, skin sheen by the sodium glare of stadium lamps. He held no key, only a coil of blue fiber. He looked up when Rex approached, eyes stretched wide, mouth poised between apology and self-defense. The words died under the roar of a crowd wave. Rex noted the bulge in Vic's shirt pocket, the size and weight of a thumb drive. Back in the truck, the HBO director prepared a countdown slate, unaware the router was one glitch from chewing the live feed. An FBI liaison, flown in after Munich, monitored a parallel channel. His earpiece picked up a whisper codenamed Crown, Victor's own voice promising a mirror TV field desk that the key was secured. The liaison tipped Rex. Your kid's hot mic'd. Don't spook him. Michael opened with the orchestral overture, Beethoven's Egmont, strings sampled and sweetened for a Romanian audience starved of Western crescendo. 3 measures and he walked the thrust runway, spotlight cutting through dust motes like a sacred geometry compass. He sensed the fret behind the dimples of camera glass. Something in their stare felt hungry, not celebratory. He waited until the final timpani boom and lifted a hand. Music stopped on a dime. The stadium collapsed into incredulous hush broken only by a hiss of parched breath against humid night. In clear Romanian, coached phonetically all afternoon, he spoke. Asus semnul nu e pentru razba. Este pentru inimal voster. This signal is not for war, it is for your hearts. The phrase landed heavy, even the ushers froze. Then every stadium light blacked out, Rattler electricians through the mains on Rex's single-word order. In total dark, one could hear the low scuff of cable booths sprinting between distro boxes. A lone generator kept the mixing desk alive. Its fan throbbed at 46 Hz, almost exactly the resting pulse of an adult heart. Torch and 2 crewmen rerouted the Vision mixer through a spare Snell and Wilcox frame sync, bypassing the crippled optical array. Latency ballooned to 1.3 seconds, but the picture held. Somewhere over the Atlantic, Master Control saw the feed blink, jitter, then settle, audio half a breath behind Michael's lip movements. They stayed online, assuming satellite precession. Stadium lights soared back, now filtered rows to hide the microsecond misalignments. Michael exhaled once, felt the crowd inhale in reply, call and response stretched by exactly 1.3 seconds, the smallest eternity television ever gifted. He restarted. Will you be there? This time letting the baritone horn swell longer, making space for the delay to bloom. What might have been a defect became a designed echo, each phrase circling the world and returning an instant later like a heartbeat confirming life. Vic, still on the riser, realized mid-verse that the truck intercom was still live. He heard the FBI monitor recite his name, heard the broadcast ops supervisor think, "Whoever switched to AUX," felt the truth slammed shut like prison bars. The key in his pocket weighed suddenly toxic. He pulled it free, signaled a runner, and surrendered it without drama. Cameras never left the singer, yet one second unit operator caught the handoff in soft focus, a small brass object gleaming under flood as though absolution could be cast from metal. The rest of the concert unfolded with almost supernatural poise. Even the notoriously unwieldy cherry picker Kem glided as if on rails. At home, viewers phoned hotlines asking about the echo that sounds like giant wings. Critics called it the heartbeat delay, convinced it was a bespoke DSP flourish. HBO replayed the show twice in the same weekend. Ratings eclipsed Tyson Holyfield pre-fight specials. After loadout, Rex found Vic seated on a flight case, staring at his own hands. The young man's voice cracked. "I thought a scholarship would change everything." Rex didn't scold. He sat, shoulder to shoulder. "Scholarships don't buy silence. They buy moments. This one is yours to rewrite." Above them the dishes folded home, stowing like white petals at dusk. The optical key, now returned, clicked into a Ziploc evidence bag stamped FBI. Its absence had nearly unraveled 58 live signals. Its recovery authored a legend in broadcast engineering textbooks. The 1.3-second salvation. No one watching knew the term yet, but they felt it in their chests long after the house lights rose, a phantom thump, proof that even a fragile feed, respliced under duress by welders once branded misfits, could outrun sabotage and carry a song intact around the curve of the planet. A summer storm had already rinsed the smoke from Bucharest when Dangerous rolled west again, leaving behind headlines about the heartbeat delay and a fat spike in HBO subscriptions. For 6 weeks the tour machine felt charmed. Stadiums sold out faster than scaffolds could unfurl, and every column inch that might have carried sabotage gossip was swallowed instead by critics raving about that phantom 1.3-second echo. Then, on a Monday 2 days before the Denver show, Manhattan's dawn presses coughed out a new front page that traveled faster than any encore. National Mirror, August 23, 1993. Jackson sued by child's father. Hospital dance hit a darker night. The paper hit hotel lobbies while West Coast managers were still in REM sleep. Under the banner ran a photograph no one had seen before. Michael in the children's hospital atrium, microphoneless, had bowed beside a wheelchair. The boy, 13 now, features thinned by chemo, stared up with the adoration of a disciple. The caption twisted the image into evidence. Alleged victim moments before covert incident. No reporter name, only Mirror Investigations Unit. Midtown traffic muted beneath the skyscraper that housed Mirror HQ, thick glass reflecting a sunrise that looked healthy, trustworthy. Inside, floor 21 resembled a futures exchange without commodities, phones erupting, fax spools hissing, editors pinballing between cubicles. At the center of the storm, corporate counsel Stephen Harper adjusted a silk knot and practiced a sermon he'd been rehearsing since Munich. He didn't need a verdict. He needed a confession the marketplace could monetize. Los Angeles. 6:23 Pacific. Frank Dilios slammed the sweet television loud enough that the woofer cracked. Michael, barefoot in rehearsal sweats, watched the Mirror anchor hold up dossiers, screenshots of sealed depositions, from unnamed doctors, spines emblazoned with barcodes. An on-screen scroll promised full scans online noon Eastern Standard Time. The boy's father was scheduled to file in Superior Court by noon. CNN had a satellite truck outside the courthouse already. Fabrication travels light, Michael murmured, voice rasped by another short night. His left ankle, sprained on a mistimed knee spin in Singapore, rested in a neoprene brace that peeked from beneath black socks. In 10 hours he would stand before 48,000 Denver fans and pretend the earth beneath him didn't tilt. Dilios' Motorola burst, Stephen Harper on the other end, all Ivy League civility. "Settle and print," he said, "and we can close the wound quietly. We'll buy global rights to your memoir, working title I Made Mistakes. You'll retire respected. We bury today's edition and every one that would have followed." In plain language, a purchased obituary for a career still breathing, offered as mercy. Michael declined to answer. He had a show to mount and a statement to draft. At 1400 hours Mountain Time, reporters packed Denver's McNichols Arena press room, the air thick with fried halogen heat and the plastic tang of rental chairs. Michael emerged, sunglasses swapped for wire-rimmed readers, ankle bandage visible where white sock met loafers. The fatigue in his voice shocked even loyalists. Syllables landed soft, consonants clipped short like a tape losing bias. "These allegations are false," he said, "and I will face them with truth and with faith." 23 seconds total, no Q&A. Cameras caught the micro-tremor of his hands on the podium edge. When he exited, some swore his outlines seemed smaller, as though the scrape of public doubt stole inches. Across the continent, Harper called the presser stagecraft, hinting at more revelations. Wall Street heard secondhand within minutes. Sony Music's ticker slid 2.7% by closing bell and kept bleeding after hours. Far from trading floors, Rex stood under humming fluorescence in a corrugated garage on Temple Street, palms flat on the fuel tank of a 1979 Harley-Davidson FXC, midnight blue, pinstriped ivory. He'd rebuilt that bike after Vietnam, tuned carburetors to purr like lullabies. Now a consignor examined cylinder compression, scribbled numbers on a triplicate form that smelled of ink and resignation. Sale price, $13,500, every cent wiremarked to Medina Investigations LLC, Tucson, Arizona. Claire Medina was ex-Pima County homicide, dismissed for punching a badge who doctored evidence. Perfect for digging where official records slept. Her mandate: re-examine the Phoenix bar fight of '85, Rex's own cross to bear, and find out why two men who testified against him were suddenly earning bylines for the Mirrors, special projects, desk, airfare, motel, bribes. It would eat every dollar of the Harley and maybe his last shred of nostalgia. By midnight, Claire faxed her first findings. Witness 1 now freelance tabloid stringers from a Scottsdale P.O. box. Witness 2, broke ex-bartender, made rent ghostwriting, exclusive recollections, for whichever scandal sheet bid it highest. A marginal note chilled Rex more than the rest. Both recently visited CHLA ostensibly for interviews tied to upcoming patient suit. The two tracks, the old assault charge and the new child claim, were spliced like a counterfeit tape loop, feeding voltage from one lie into the next. Rex reread the sheet until the ribbon ink blurred. He imagined Michael in a Denver hotel, thinking the biker was asleep at the wheel while lawyers closed in. He imagined the father, maybe desperate, maybe just lured by zeros, coached by journalists who'd once spat perjury onto Rex's own reputation. Rage sparked, but doubt cooled it almost as quickly. What if the child was hurting and believed the script? Could an innocent kid tell lines written by grown hands without grasping the poison? He folded the fax, slid it into his jacket, and walked 3 miles through downtown Neon to a Western Union kiosk. The telegram he sent used 7 paid words. Pursuing shadow source. Stand firm. Believe Dawn. No sender name. Michael would guess anyway. Morning of August 24th chased Rex back to the garage to sign final title transfer. The placard on the counter read, "Cashier's checks only, no exceptions." He pressed thumb to paperwork, felt a phantom vibration where Harley keys once bulged his pocket. Outside, traffic smelled of diesel and jasmine from a nearby flower stall. Life's ordinary textures mocked the melodrama of selling a memory to buy a chance at justice. In Manhattan, Harper staged a second briefing under a bank of cold LEDs, promising videotape evidence in 48 hours unless Michael reconsidered his defensive posture. Stock cameras captured the lawyer's immaculate cufflinks, but not the perspiration haloing his armpits. Lighting hid that. Mirror's newsroom applauded. Their click rate spike already dwarfed previous scandals. Michael, prepping for sound check, received Rex's telegram moments before hobbling towards stage. He tucked it into a wristband next to the compression pack, freezing his swollen ankle. Out front, fans chanted his name across 3 octaves. He let their voices soak through the fabric and into the skin. Rex's message vibrated faintly with each pulse. Stand firm. Believe Dawn. Neither man could see the full board yet, but the pattern was emerging, arrows converging on a single coordinate, their fletching inked by the same tabloid hand. Biker trial witnesses repurposed as moral judges, a hospital dad nudged into litigation, anonymous pyros, disappearing router keys, each move a chess piece meant to surround, not strike. And so the 11th part of their shared odyssey closed on a tension nothing musical could resolve. Michael took stage limping yet defiant, voice cracking on the first jam, while a Harley's echo faded forever down a side street in L.A., traded for truths still buried in desert files. Stand firm, the telegram whispered through every snare hit. Believe dawn, the stage lights answered, even if night seemed to have perfected the art of siege. News cameras still hovered near the clinic gates when night folded over Marrowbone. Inside Charter Nightingale, fluorescent rings hummed above a podium improvised from a nurse station desk. Michael stood gingerly, ankles still taped, pupils glossy from tapering Demerol, and told the world he was stepping away. To heal a different wound. The sentence took 9 seconds, its echo lasted 48 hours. Before dawn the next day Reuters terminals on 3 continents showed the same red arrow. Sony Music, $11.74 billion market cap the previous Friday, bled 6% as traders read the press break like a retreat under fire. One analyst called it the cost of gravity finally reaching Neverland. London's drizzle made the headline feel colder. That same rain sluiced off the awnings of 229 West 43rd Street, the old New York Times building now rented floor by floor to glossy upstarts. At 2:17 Eastern 3 figures emerged from the service alley. Torch hoisted a road case stenciled light panels, Skinny Vic carried a fiber spool, Rex shouldered a duffel whose zipper jingled with lock picks. Their ITSE contractor badges, issued during Hollywood's '91 strike, still scanned valid. Corporate landlords rarely updated sub-basement permissions. A security guard glanced at the laminate passes and waved them toward the freight lift that moaned 30 stories up to Mirror's archival catacombs. Fluorescent ballast flicker painted the corridor a sickly aquarium green. Torch's knuckles traced conduit runs automatically, counting breakers, old habit from rigging dimmers. Vic's breath sounded like torn paper. He'd flown from Bucharest promising redemption, found instead that Mirror had weaponized his earlier audition. Level 21 smelled of cardboard, ozone, and dread camouflaged as success. Beta SB cassettes sat in climate racks, spine labels printed with docket numbers, CHLA_DPA1, PChex_bar W2, Harley_Magus14. Rex swallowed hard at the Phoenix code. Torch produced a keycard clone during Munich's Jenny blackout. The red LED winked green. Inside the viewing bay they slotted CHLA_DPA1. Gray snow cleared to reveal a hospital rec room, January light bleaching everything pale. A teenage boy, the child who once danced to Man in the Mirror, sat at a mic, reading lines obviously too ornate for his age, phrases like betrayal of pastoral trust. Off camera a voice prompted cadence. The slate at frame start listed director V. Ortega. Vic recoiled as if slapped. They said it was ADR practice for film school, he whispered. Torch killed audio to silence the scripted confession. For a moment only the dry fan and Vic's ragged breathing filled the room. Rex's fists bunched, then released. He could smell whatever solvent Mirror used on their floors, citrus masking ammonia, unable to bleach the deceit. Torch wanted to smash the tape then and there. Rex shook his head. Proof cuts both ways. They copied the master onto a fresh cassette, encoded time of night burn-in for authenticity, and slipped the dub into a Tyvek envelope marked attorney-client privileged. The original went into Rex's duffel. By 4:50 they were in a Wall Street vestibule, keys clinking against deposit box steel. Torch slid the tape into slot 38B beside a notarized affidavit describing chain of custody. Rex kept no duplicate key. Leverage had to rest somewhere unreachable by cameras. Mirror discovered the breach minutes before market open. Rather than call police and risk discovery of forged depositions, they summoned a press scrum. Harper delivered the line with polished outrage. Overnight, armed bikers attacked a news institution, stealing materials vital to public interest. No questions allowed. The statement itself admitted existence of materials, and that, Rex calculated, was victory won. London, 11 November, 2:12 Greenwich Mean Time. Ward lights low, saline pump clicking. Michael lay awake, the irregular drum of detox tremors beating under his skin. A nurse nudged the door, handed over a thermal fax still warm. I have your voice. Keep yours. No signature, only the dot matrix header of a lower Manhattan bank. His fingers, unsteady but resolute, gripped the paper until corners curled. In the window's black glass he met his reflection, eyes ringed, yet sharper for the pain, and mouthed the refrain he had promised to reclaim. With truth and with faith. Outside, rain tapped Morse against the pane, the night typing its own telegram toward dawn. Somewhere under Times Square 20,000 cables hummed, but the tape that could bend fate now slept in chilled steel, guarded by a lock no scandal could pick, at least until the next move on the board demanded it be heard. The fax paper in Michael's hand was still warm when dawn broke over Beverly Hills, steam curling off rain-dark asphalt outside the clinic. Through the milky hallway glass he watched Los Angeles tilt from violet to tarnished silver and felt the world tilt with it. A cassette, one magnetic ribbon, 42 seconds, now existed in duplicate. Rex's scrawl had been blunt, copy enclosed. Use if truth needs noise. 3 hours remained before lawyers, parents, and insurers would file into a Century City boardroom to certify the civil settlement everyone assumed would buy silence and euthanize headlines. At 10:05 a.m. Pacific, the National Mirror blasted an extra edition. Vendors on La Cienega dropped bundled rolls that thudded like wet sandbags. MJ buys quiet. Below the masthead, Marble's paper offered dollar amounts down to the cent, all fictitious, and promised photographic proof. By evening. The text reeked of certainty so complete it dared markets to gamble. Traders did. Sony slipped another point. Mirror ticked up on heavier volume than at any time since Munich. In the wilting hush of the conference suite at the Regent Beverly Wilshire, 14 television crews choreographed the ballet of final cable pulls. They expected spin, maybe a lawyer's statement, maybe Michael reading from cue cards. What they found was a mixing console perched on a lucite stand, a Nakamichi deck, and a single Shure podium mic. No flowers, no banners, no chairs. The aircon had been killed to stop hum lines. Without it, the room held the scent of carpet glue and camera operator coffee. Michael entered without entourage, ankle brace hidden in patent shoes, suit charcoal enough to read black on broadcast. He did not wave. He did not smile. He set a palm-sized cassette labeled only with the Quantico case number into the deck, closed the door until the latch clicked, and pressed play. Then he stepped back, hands folded at his waist as though attending mass. A dry pop crackled through the JBL columns. Tape hiss surfaced, fine, restless, and then a teenage voice, unmistakably reading, no childlike melody in it. I, the undersigned, state that the events of 15th March were a violation of pastoral trust. The cadence was stiff, vowels pressed by an adult's syntax. Seconds stretched. Reporters looked from lenses to one another, each calculating the optics of reaction shots versus audience disbelief. On-camera talent suddenly realized that any whisper would ride the same feed as the recording. They froze. Mid-sentence, a click, a cue mic somewhere off-frame, prompted the boy to repeat a line he'd stumbled. The prompt voice carried the faint Queen's burr of Mirror's deputy features editor, though few would place it yet. Michael's gaze never left the floor. One corner of his lower lip caught briefly between teeth, a restraint rather than a tremor. He let the tape roll through its halting finale, then rewound to the start. The spindle's word, a mechanical sigh that sounded indecently loud in the vacuumed stillness. He pressed stop. He never spoke. He bowed fractionally, stepped away, and left camera view. Only when the door clicked behind him did the room exhale. The wheeze of an A-camera zoom servo, the involuntary clack of a pen cap, the nervous cough of a field producer who realized they were sweating through linen. Someone killed their tally light out of reflex, as if darkness might soften what had just entered the public record. Quantico's audio lab confirmed chain of custody by nightfall. Carrier frequencies on the cassette matched the noise profile of Mirror's in-house voiceover booth, its transformer hum, unique since a 1989 wiring refit, mapped like a fingerprint. By 2200 hours Reuters pushed a bulletin. FBI traces alleged evidence to Mirror Studios. Tabloid shares sink in after hours. The next morning's opening bell sounded less like a start than a threshing blade. Mirror Holdings gapped down 18%, clawed a ragged rally, then collapsed again when the Securities and Exchange Commission announced a formal probe into potentially market-moving fabrications targeting a publicly traded entertainment company. By close of January 27, the paper had surrendered 37% of its valuation, wiping a decade of acquisitions in 2 bloody sessions. Across the tape, Sony rebounded on relief alone, recouping 4 of the 5 points shaved since Denver. Marble convened a damage control telecast from a glass-walled corner office that now looked eerily like an aquarium half-drained. His voice carried bullish contrition. "I'm not broken. Evidence is negotiable. We will continue to purchase the voices necessary to illuminate this story." The phrase "purchase the voices" ricocheted down wire services like a confession. Analysts heard hubris, advertisers heard liability, affiliates pulled 4 pages of display ads within the hour. Late that evening, Michael returned to the Wilshire suite where the deck still sat, reels wound tight. Outside, sunset traffic hissed on wet asphalt. Inside, silence felt denser than sound. He lowered the fader and replayed the tape once more, alone. This time he listened past the words to the breaths in between, tiny, anxious draws of a boy coached into ventriloquizing hurt. Michael closed his eyes, thought of a hospital atrium and the way hope had once lifted that same child from a chair long enough to sway to an a cappella refrain. The memory cut deeper than any headline, but it also steadied his pulse. The lie was unraveling under its own weight, and the path to daylight now demanded something rarer than fury: patience. He rewound, pressed eject, and slipped the cassette into an unmarked envelope meant for Quantico's archive. As he sealed it, he realized his fingers still rested on the deck's rewind key. Comfort, habit, or a vow to never allow the story to spool forward without truth again. Down the hall, phones rang with new interview requests. Somewhere a copy editor fought closing deadlines rewriting tomorrow's banner to soundtrack of a scandal. He left them their verbs. For tonight, silence sufficed. In silence the air felt breathable again, and breathing was the first instrument he had ever trusted. Dawn bled through a gauze of North Sea drizzle as a low-slung tug nudged its unlikely cargo downriver. The barge, industrial, flat-decked, diesel hard thudding, carried a 9-meter bronze likeness of Michael Jackson, chin lifted like a prow angel steering for the ocean. Dockhands at Tilbury craned necks, even veteran stevedores went silent, tools paused in mid-clang. London smelled of mazout and salt and that indefinable metal tang the Thames exhaled whenever the tide turned. Over the tannoys of moored freighters, BBC Radio 1 read a traffic bulletin about minor nautical disruption near Tower Bridge. They left unspoken the absurd romance of a pop icon riding a steel arc toward the capital's stone throat. 2 rattlers, Rex in borrowed canvas jacket, torch disguised beneath a docker's beanie, paced the deck among lighting crates painted swift job gray. Marble's Money had hired a phalanx of aquabikers tasked with circling the statue at dusk, floodlighting its face scarlet so tomorrow's Mirror could splash a Blood King front page. The schematics had been easy to intercept. Torch still knew half the rental houses Marble frequented. All it took was switching gels while the contractors were on break, from crimson number 27 to gleaming gold amber number 135, identical cut, identical frame ID. He felt a small, lawful wickedness sink into his bones as he wired safety clips. Light never lies, Michael liked to say. Torch intended to prove it. The flotilla reached Tower Bridge at blue hour, that suspended moment when sodium street lamps haven't yet surrendered to daylight but water already shimmers pewter. As planned, 4 jet skis streaked ahead, fan tails chiseling V-slashes. Their riders slapped waterproof switches, generators purred, Fresnels ignited, and poured molten sunlight, not blood, across bronze cheekbones. Illuminated from gunnel up, the statue looked less tyrant than Helios, casting golden ripples onto Victorian masonry. Mirror photographers on the south bank cursed into radios. Their front page would now glow, not bleed. Crowds lining the embankment erupted anyway. Sun King, barked the Evening Standard later, as if choreographed. Rex allowed himself a grin the river could not steal. 3 months sped like real countdowns to September 7, 1995. Backstage at Radio City Music Hall smelled of rig grease and old varnish, corridors wallpapered with black gaffer since Sinatra days. Michael's crew arrived towing flight cases embossed history teaser, 30-second interstitial cut to premiere during the MTV Video Music Awards broadcast. Simultaneously, Marble's team purchased A-slot inventory, a 90-second ad break intended to hijack mid-show momentum with a truth montage, stitched from doctored hospital footage. MTV's transmission server, a row of bruise-colored Sony BVP-70 decks, sat inside a cage marked Master TX, strict. The station's technical manager Alvin Zep Rodriguez, one-time ITSC rigger who owed Rex a favor from the '91 strike, monitored playlists off a green phosphor terminal. At T-8 minutes he received an unobtrusive tap code on the metal rack door, 3-3. Rex's signal. Zep scrolled, Marble spot cued between best rock video and commercial bumper. He highlighted, hit delete, and inserted black 30 color bars. The system barked a warning about unpaid seconds, $1.8 million in dead air, but obeyed. House lights dimmed for award return. Instead of Marble's sledgehammer, the broadcast feed dropped to black. 30 seconds, eternity on live television. Gasps rustled through velvet seats, an insect hum of confusion. Then a single pair of footsteps, soft, deliberate. Michael slipped onto the unlit stage, no orchestra, no pyros. A condenser mic on boom caught his breath, magnified at stadium large. He tapped sternum twice, mouth forming a percussive bass drum, tongue the hi-hat hiss. The rhythm swelled as audience members clapped instinctively, 16,000 palms aligning to his chest thump pattern, a human sampler pad syncing hall and living rooms worldwide. Still in darkness he spoke once, voice low but live. Light cannot lie. On cue, Zeps slammed grandma faders. Follow spots flared, gilding suit lapels in the same amber hue that had redeemed the Thames. Marble, perched in a mezzanine box, was lit too, camera ops wheeled, flashes detonated. In sudden overexposure his tailored charcoal looked ashen, pupils pinpricked by the glare of a truth he hadn't scripted. The pause that Marble purchased became Michael's canvas, silence as protest, rhythm as reclamation. MTV's switcher fed the moment raw, no cheer-in, no cutaway, giving advertisers a hiccup and historians a relic. Critics next day christened it the Black Bar Sonata, citing Nielsen's spike during the 30-second void. Back on the barge of memory, the statue now anchored at Earl's Court, floodlit gold each sunset. Tourists queued for photos beside plaques extolling resilience. Miru's print run fell below break-even for the first time in 2 decades. Marble issued a memo vowing escalated countermeasures. Rex read the leaked PDF and exhaled through his teeth. The fight had crossed steel, crossed water, and now crossed photons. Each new arena expanded the distance Marble must sprint to keep truth shadowed. Evening settled over Manhattan. At a diner where the neon flickered like bad time code, Rex toasted Torch with burnt coffee. Sun can blind, Torch said, recalling Thames' glare. Rex shrugged. So can justice, if you polish it enough. They clinked mugs. Porcelain rang small but certain, the audible note of a war where decibels and lumens fought side by side. Light cannot lie, only delay refract bide. Tonight it had spoken in 30 loud seconds of televised dark, and the echo was still rolling down the fiber lines toward every insomniac viewer who knew sabotage when they felt it skip a beat. Night pressed a cobalt sheen across Seoul, the kind of heavy twilight that thickens every neon squiggle until it smears like wet calligraphy. Jamsil Olympic Stadium slept under that glow while riggers checked the last speaker clusters, anvil-shaped nexo hangs that would later shove 130 decibels into 70,000 throats. The air smelled of river mist, brackish Han water plus a tang of ozone from the afternoon's storm and faintly, kimchi ferment venting from vendor carts outside Gate 6. At 1948, an off-duty police spotter in the East Gantry logged a flicker on his fluoroscope, a quadrotor, low and slow, slithering through the dark like a metal carp. Payload tube, maybe 2 kilos, nose aimed toward the VIP canopy. Backstage, Rex's Motorola coughed static, then Torch's code. Dragonfly inbound east vector. Rex shouldered through cabling jungles, boots skidding on anti-slip paint. Stadium security tap surveillance. The drone's guidance program was traced within minutes to an IP block registered, and plausibly, to mirror regional content hub, Tokyo. Nothing subtle left in Marble's war chest. He was ready to fog a patron box on live satellite and spin panic into copy. Skinny Vic found Rex first. 2 years had carved gaunt planes into his face, trading adolescent betrayal for something older, quieter. He said nothing, just pressed a plastic thumb drive into Rex's palm, a sliver of matte plastic that somehow weighed more than the Harley Rex once sold. All of Marble's mail. Vic breathed, voice dry as newsprint. 6 years. Payroll, bribes, drone orders. Yours. No plea for absolution, only delivery. Before Rex could answer, the drone broke cloud cover, strobes winking. A stagehand, former artillery radar tech moonlighting as Boom Op, snatched a 35mm blank shot launcher used for Q sparks. One trigger pull, a puff of magnesium, and the quadrotor tumbled like a swatted moth, payload capsule rupturing in midair. The sulphurous smoke dissipated harmlessly over empty bleachers while the crowd still filed through turnstiles, blissfully ignorant. From the far tunnel a brisk, tailored figure emerged, Glenn Marble himself, air freight from Narita on a charter, and now pacing like a man who'd invested in chaos futures. His expression soured when he saw the drone debris escorted off-pitch in a canvas casket, cameras nowhere near. Rex pocketed the flash drive and tailed Marble through scaffolding corridors that reeked of welding flux. He caught fragments of phone bark. Plan B goes during Earth song. If Panic won't broadcast, we'll spin backstage injuries. The voice on the other end had a West Coast rasp. Old alliances. Maybe that LAPD Captain Rex's Tucson detective had flagged. First downbeat thundered 2100 hours sharp. Soul's audience roared. Sound compassed their ribcages. Rex slipped Vic a headset. Stay in comms. You want redemption, tonight you direct it. Vic's nod was a tectonic plate finally settling. Mid-set, Michael prepared for Earth song. The hydraulic lift calibrated to hoist him above the stage rim. Marble lurked near the smoke machines, a security engineer laminate dangling from an obviously unused lanyard. Rex intercepted, body language all conversational menace. Your headline factory's closed, he said, thumbing the flash drive like a rosary bead. Marble's smirk cracked, the moment stretched. Above, the lift hissed, 1,000 sigh, then jammed halfway. An engineer cursed. Emergency stop line had been sliced. A second drone, smaller, silent, edged from under the canopy, this one rigged with flares. Vic saw it on the Skycam feed, slammed his comm button. Rex, bug in the rafters. No time for firearms. A lighting tech swung a follow spot off cue, blinding the drone's optical stabilizer. It wobbled, clipped a truss brace, and pancaked onto the catwalk in a burst of harmless sparks. Marble bolted, Rex tackled. They grappled beside a coil case, anger tasted of hot brass and adrenaline. In the scuffle, Rex glimpsed a money clip bearing LAPD insignia. Pieces aligned, purchased silence back home trading for staged mayhem abroad. Vic arrived breathless, hands trembling but steady enough to present a severed cable, the drone detonator line he had just yanked from Marble's field console. For the first time in 2 years, Rex met the kid's eyes without flinching. All debts cleared, he said. Vic just shook his head. Some ledgers aren't written in numbers. On stage, the hydraulic lift rebooted. In a spur-of-the-moment call, Michael beckoned Vic into the light. They stepped onto the platform as one, palms locking, raising each other. Cameras caught only silhouettes. 2 figures, one glitter-jacketed, one headset shadowed, rising into pyrotechnic stardust. No lower third would ever name the assistant, but millions watching felt the unscripted pulse change, as if a new harmony line slipped beneath the chorus, sub-bass of forgiveness only a subwoofer could translate. The song peaked. Fireworks sheathed the night, ripples glowing off Han River fog. Backstage, Marble was cuffed by Korean police, arm hanging limp where Rex's block had torqued the joint. The flash drive rode inside an evidence envelope toward Interpol's servers. Somewhere in LA, a captain's pension began to evaporate. After Bose, house lights lingered amber. Michael limped toward the wings, old ankle, weather-stitched spine, but paused by Vic, now deflating with spent adrenaline. No speech, just that gloved hand squeezing the kid's shoulder, the squeeze that once steadied a hospital dancer. No cameras saw, those had cut for commercials. Yet crew members nearby swore the stadium's hum softened, as if 70,000 lungs exhaled the same relieved note. Outside, the murk above the Han lifted enough to expose Orion's belt, city lights turning river vapor into silver chiffon. Rex stood at the loading dock, helmet under arm, listening to subwoofer echo decay across concrete. He realized the roar felt different, less like battle static, more like engines idling after a long haul. Seoul wasn't peace, but it was a negotiated truce written in redacted arrest records and a gesture no headline would annotate. In the gear bay, Vic found an abandoned mirror crew jacket and dropped it into a bio-waste incinerator, watching synthetic fibers twist into smoke that vanished through roof vents. He didn't look triumphant, more like someone who finally heard silence without fearing the next note. The night's last firework burst above Olympic Park, whitening cloud sheets for a breath, overexposing the whole city to daylight clarity. When darkness returned, it felt honest. No drones lurked, no secret gels, just Seoul's ordinary luminous pollution and the echo of a song that had cannibalized sabotage into choir. Somewhere, earlier than anyone dared hope, dawn rehearsed behind eastern ridges. Metal screamed before anyone saw it fail. A hard-edged shriek, half violin bow, half freight train brake, ripped across Munich's Olympiastadion, slicing through pre-show murmurs and snipping time in two. Seconds earlier, the giant LED wall had been cross-fading from Seoul's end-credit firework, white-hot pixel snow, into live afternoon sky, cobalt patches swimming behind midsummer clouds. Now the feed stuttered, and that raw sound pealed again, louder, as if steel itself begged for attention nobody had paid it in months of rehearsals. Backstage, Rex felt the vibration before the echo. Hydraulic scaffolds transmit bad news like tuning forks, and the deck beneath his boots quivered with a pulse out of rhythm with the sub-bass throb of the pre-show DJ. He pivoted toward the signature prop of the night, the Bridge of No Return. 17 meters of motor-driven truss meant to rise, tilt, and unfold like an ascending drawbridge during Earth Song. Its spine now sagged 2 degrees off spec. Techs clustered around its base, faces drained of color usually reserved for medical wards. Above the din, a digital chronometer glared 19:14. 46 minutes to curtain. The air behind Olympic Stadium smelled of cut grass baked under Bavarian sun, blended with bite of hydraulic oil and a faint ozone whiff from afternoon pyros. Rex's comm crackled, torch reporting a stranger in the service bay flashing a laminated engineer pass, name laminate reflecting J. Kohler Hydraulic GmbH, same subcontractor who'd certified the lift in April. Kohler's entire crew, Rex knew, was 70 kilometers away servicing a beer festival stage. Only one man would counterfeit an affiliation this brazen, Glenn Marble. Rex instructed Torch to shadow the imposter while he sprinted toward the lift's control cabin. Midway he passed Skinny Vic, headset askew, poring over servo diagnostics on a battered tough book. Vic's fingers stabbed a red cell, emergency stop cable registering open circuit. Someone had severed the failsafe, guaranteeing any jam would cascade into freefall. Cable bundle runs under B2 stairwell, Vic said, voice flat but eyes afire with grim purpose. I'll reroute. He grabbed a multitool and vanished into the catacombs, footfalls echoing against concrete like metronome ticks counting down catastrophe. 1942. House lights dimmed to pre-show blue, crowd roaring at nothing more than possibility. Michael, still unaware, rolled his shoulders backstage, testing a slight tension that travel had laid along his spine. Costume assistants dusted his jacket with last-minute mica. A tech mentioned odd noises from the bridge rig, Michael nodded, trusting the safety net of pros and providence that had saved him since Munich '92. Then he walked toward the elevator cage, footfall rhythm steady enough to fool even himself. On deck, Marble hid behind an amp rack, phone pressed to ear despite spotty signal. Torch, 2 meters away, feigned interest in a dimmer pack while catching every syllable. If the bridge stalls mid-lift, make sure B-cam stays wide. I want the drop, not the recovery. Remember, last headline wins. He pocketed the phone and turned, straight into Rex's chest. You broke enough bridges, Marble, Rex said. Try crossing this one. He snagged Marble's wrist, wrenching the fake badge free. Marble swung a wrench. Rex ducked, shoulder drove him into a stack of cable trunks. Something in Marble's clavicle gave with a wet pop. He howled, but Rex already had him pinned, eyes scanning for allies, none. Torch zip-tied Marble's good arm and radioed security. 1958. Vic burst from the service tunnel, shirt ripped, fist clenched around 3 centimeters of copper wire freshly sliced and dead. Stop line restored, he gasped. The show computer still flagged a servo overload on tower motor number 4. Damage done, but at least catastrophic freefall was off the menu. With no time to reprogram cues, stage manager rolled live. Intro medley. Beat it, black or white. Crowd in full voice. Each song completed pushed the malfunction closer. Bridge sequence locked at song 12. Rex tackled 2 tasks at once. Relay Vic's patch to automation so manual overrides were primed, and keep Marble secured until Bavarian police arrived. Song 11 faded. Stadium lights cooled to aurora green. Wind rose, carrying scent of summer linden and distant beer halls. Michael climbed onto the lift platform, unaware of the patchwork salvation beneath. A hush swept 60,000 as orchestral synths eased into the sermon-quiet preamble of Earth Song. The bridge ratcheted upward. At 6 meters, servo number 4 seized, grinding like stones in a glass drum. Platform shuddered. Michael staggered but kept posture. The motor's torque sensor tripped Vic's bypass, halting upward travel but not stability. For 2 heartbeats nothing moved, then load redistribution snapped a retaining pin. The entire arm lurched downward 6 feet and slammed, whump, into its own base track. Michael vanished in dust sliced by strobe beams. Gasps became a collective guttural moan, then blackout silence broken only by the ringing tinnitus of 130 dB suddenly subtracted. Emergency beacons flickered crimson. Text dashed. Rex's heart hammered, but protocol held him. The deck was now hot. 1 wrong step could trigger aftershock. 30 seconds crawled. The dust settled. A single follow spot flicked on, manual, not programmed, and there he stood atop the crumpled truss, left hand braced on a rail, posture tilted like an injured tree refusing gravity. Blood speckled his lower lip where teeth had bitten through. Applause exploded, then choked as he raised the other hand for silence. He spoke German, careful, aching. Danke, das und das gut Glot. The PA carried it tenderly. Thank you for believing in good. He asked, still in German, for every light, house, spot, LED, to die. Total darkness fell, fractured only by the red glow of LED exit signs and the distant sodium halo of Munich night leaking through archways. In that cavernous hush Michael exhaled, a crisp, broadcast loud breath. Someone sobbed near Mick's position. Then, unaccompanied, he began. You are not alone. His register sat 1 semitone under studio pitch. Pain does that. First phrase hovered unadorned, a bird on updraft. Breath between lines audible, in through nose, out, shaped by diaphragm still seizing from impact. The audience stayed mute, thousands of lungs holding air as if any exhale might topple him. Midverse, lighters and phone screens butted across stands, first a constellation, then a galaxy. Their collective glow found the steel dust in stage haze, painting it like cosmic debris. From the hush rose tiny sounds, the distant fabric rustle of paramedics edging closer, the brittle click of a shutter some journalists couldn't suppress, the metallic ping of cooling truss contracting after stress. Michael's vibrato wavered once, pain, maybe fear, and an ocean of sympathetic throats answered, humming the tonic so softly it seemed imagined. He steadied. By chorus reprise, tears streaked cheeks stadium-wide. One paramedic whispered, "We're warten, we wait," refusing to rush a miracle in motion. When final vowel dissolved into blackness, the silence that followed felt alive, a held breath of an entire species remembering it shared one heartbeat. Only after half a minute did house lights ghost back, dim enough not to bruise the intimacy. Backstage, physicians urged gurney and x-rays. Michael accepted collar brace but refused stretcher, leaning on a mic stand like a pilgrim's staff while signing to cancel encore pyros. As crew detoured him toward medical bay, Rex intercepted, Marble's arrest papers in hand. "Not tonight," his eyes said. Michael nodded once, understanding buried in bloodshot whites. Police carted Marble away from a service exit to siren-punctuated solitude. In his pocket they found a note scrawled left-handed, "Last headline wins." It never ran. Mirror folded within 6 months, liabilities eclipsing assets after Interpol leaks. Months later, a rust-pitted '79 Harley rumbled into Rex's driveway. The new owner, a woman who'd won an eBay auction, dismounted, thrust keys back at him. "Some rides belong at home," she said. Inside the saddlebag lay the original bill of sale and a Polaroid of Rex and Michael, arm in arm outside CHLA, date stamped April '92. That night, Rex received a letter on cream stationery embossed MJ. Only one sentence: "You showed me metal sings when hands learn its resonance. Mine are still learning." Beneath, a silver guitar pick taped beside a bent bridge pin from Olympia Stadium, both glittering like small, stubborn hearts. He closed the envelope, listening to Munich's distant traffic, each tire hiss a reminder that resonance, once struck, travels far. Longer than headlines, longer than pain. Out in the garage, the Harley pinged as engine heat faded, echoing the stadium trust that night, metal cooling, but never, ever silent.